This is what happens when you work to change things, and first they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world.
I can't get into it in any detail, but I'm satisfied with my blanket statement that I'm innocent.
Ever wondered if Elizabeth Holmes could have matched the infamy of cold-blooded killers like Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy, the clown killer, if she wasn't caught in her web of lies? We're about to strip down the chilling manipulative tactics of Holmes and stack them up against some of history's most heinous villains. Picture this. Holmes, with her genius, could have easily been a name whispered in the same breath as these notorious figures. With Elizabeth, it's not just a narrative of corporate failure, but a saga of human tragedy, akin to the cold, calculated actions of a psychopath or a serial killer. Holmes's promises, once seen as beacons of hope, now reveal a disturbing disregard for human life. Consider the potential repercussions of Theranos' technology failure. The World Health Organization reports that cancer, responsible for 9.6 million deaths globally in 2018, demands early detection. Theranos' flawed diagnostics potentially left countless individuals uninformed about their health status. Similarly, cardiovascular diseases, the leading cause of death with 17.9 million deaths annually, and diabetes, affecting 463 million people worldwide, rely on accurate testing for management. Theranos' inability to deliver reliable results in these critical areas is not just a failure, it's a betrayal. The psychological toll of such a betrayal is immeasurable. Imagine the mental anguish of living with uncertainty or false diagnosis. It's a silent killer, a form of sustained mental torture. To put this into perspective, consider the human cost of wars. The American Civil War saw approximately 620,000 deaths, World War I about 16 million, and World War II upwards of 70 million. These are catastrophic losses. Yet, in the modern age, a company's failure, under the guise of medical advancement, had the potential to impact millions silently, insidiously. It's a different kind of battlefield, one where trust in medical innovation became a casualty. Labeling Holmes as a psychopath might seem extreme, but her actions, devoid of empathy and remorse, mirror the traits of one. The systematic deceit in promising life-changing medical advancements aligns disturbingly with the methodical nature of crimes committed by serial killers. While not physical in nature, the analogy holds in the calculated approach and potential scale of the victims of her actions. To further draw this point home, let's provide some solid definitions. A psychopath is typically defined as an individual with a specific cluster of personality traits, including enduring antisocial behavior, diminished empathy and remorse, and often bold, disinhibited, and egotistical traits. This diagnosis is aligned with the broader category of antisocial personality disorder as defined in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. A serial killer, on the other hand, is defined as a person who commits a series of murders, often with no apparent motive, and typically following a characteristic, predictable behavior pattern. These crimes are usually separated by a cooling-off period and are often driven by a variety of psychological urges, particularly the need for power and dominance over their victims. Serial killers are often, but not always, diagnosed with psychopathy or sociopathy, which are both forms of antisocial personality disorder. Given the facts and figures mentioned, she could have destroyed and took lives that eclipsed all numbers above. For one moment, don't even consider the millions of potential deaths. Sometime the reality and nightmare of things get lost in large, scary figures. Think about some of the horrific cancers out in the world that cause excruciating deaths and suffering. Now imagine someone you love dearly, your mother, father, brother, spouse, best friend, going through horrific experiences because of someone's grandiose delusions of feeling important. When you view it from that perspective, then it changes things. Now place that horrific experience on everyone you have ever met your entire life, and even that wouldn't come close to the potential damage that could have been caused. Elizabeth Holmes' emulation of Steve Jobs, particularly in adopting the iconic black turtleneck, was a calculated move, a deliberate effort to weave herself into the fabric of Jobs' legacy of innovation and genius. As Walter Isaacson, Jobs' biographer, astutely observed, Jobs, knew that his look, just like the design of Apple's products, could serve as a signature. Holmes' choice to mirror this was a textbook example of the halo effect, where positive impressions in one domain significantly influence opinions in another. By aligning her image with that of Jobs, she wasn't just dressing like him, she was donning a cloak of perceived credibility and genius. In my view, this strategy was as shrewd as it was dangerous. It reminds me quite starkly of how historical figures have leveraged charismatic authority to devastating effect. Take, for instance, the tragic allure of figures like Jim Jones or Charles Manson, who use charisma to mask malevolence. While not on the same scale of moral depravity, Holmes' manipulation of the halo effect had serious consequences. Her facade of reliability and brilliance, borrowed from Jobs' image, led investors and patients to lower their guard, placing blind trust in her. This misplaced trust in charisma and appearance rather than substance can lead to tragic outcomes. Elizabeth Holmes' story, paralleling infamous serial killer John Wayne Gacy, showcases a chilling example of psychological manipulation. Gacy, known as the Killer Clown, would don a clown costume, gaining the trust of his victims with a facade of friendliness before revealing his true, sinister intentions. Holmes, in a similar vein, used her illustrious family background and impressive patent portfolio to create an aura of genius and trustworthiness. This facade of innovation and brilliance was her costume, masking the reality of Theranos' unproven and flawed technology. Like Gacy, Holmes's manipulation was methodical. She carefully constructed an image of a prodigious innovator, drawing in investors and the public with her story of dropping out of Stanford to revolutionize healthcare. This narrative mirrored the success stories of tech giants, but lacked their actual innovative substance. Her exploitation of the patent system, as discussed in the Elizabeth Holmes and the Great Patent Scam article from Above the Law, further cemented her image. She filed numerous patents, many granted despite the technologies being far from functional, using the broken patent examination system to her advantage. John Wayne Gacy's heinous crimes as the Killer Clown, murdering at least 33 people, are deeply ingrained in the annals of American criminal history. His 1972 to 1978 killing spree marks him as a particularly brutal serial killer. Yet, in my view, comparing the scale of his direct violence to the potential widespread impact of Elizabeth Holmes' actions at Theranos opens a startling perspective. The potential suffering and loss due to Holmes' manipulation and deceit in healthcare, a field inherently tied to life and death, is staggering. It makes one question whether her 11-year prison sentence truly matches the gravity of her actions. Steve Jobs was celebrated for his visionary approach to technology, changing the way we interact with electronic devices. Elizabeth Holmes projected a similar image, presenting herself as a healthcare revolutionary. This projection played into the authority bias, where perceived authority or expertise predisposes people to follow or believe someone. Holmes's alignment with Jobs' visionary image amplified her perceived authority, even when substantial evidence for her claims was lacking. Jobs, in his speeches and presentations, often emphasized the transformative power of technology, saying, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." Holmes echoed this sentiment, presenting herself as a changemaker in healthcare. The reality distortion field is a term famously associated with Jobs, describing his ability to convince himself and others to believe in almost any narrative. This trait was evident in how Jobs pushed his team to achieve seemingly impossible tasks. Holmes exhibited a similar trait, persuading stakeholders of Theranos' capabilities despite the technology's fundamental flaws. This plays into confirmation bias, where people favor information that confirms existing beliefs. In Holmes' case, many wanted to believe in her innovation, leading them to overlook critical red flags. Both Holmes and Jobs successfully established a cult of personality around themselves, effectively becoming the embodiment of their companies. This strategy taps into the bandwagon effect, where popularity encourages more popularity. The cult of personality surrounding Jobs was driven by his track record of real innovation, while Holmes's was built on an image carefully curated to mirror that of Jobs. Jobs' narrative includes overcoming significant obstacles, such as being ousted from Apple, only to return triumphantly. Holmes similarly framed her journey with Theranos as one of overcoming industry and technological challenges. This exploits the underdog bias, where stories of individuals overcoming great odds are compelling, often leading to an oversight of potential issues. Elizabeth Holmes's manipulation in the Theranos saga was a dark art of deception, echoing the sinister techniques of Ted Bundy. Bundy, a notorious serial killer, infamously feigned injury, often wearing a fake arm brace, to appear vulnerable and solicit help from young women, his unsuspecting victims. This cunning ruse was a calculated move to exploit empathy and lower defenses, enabling him to commit his heinous acts. Similarly, Holmes's orchestrated lab tours, showcasing seemingly advanced technology and vibrant activity, were meticulously designed performances. They were not just displays of progress, but deceptive acts to create an alluring facade of cutting-edge innovation and productivity. Holmes, like Bundy, displayed a profound understanding of human psychology and the power of appearances. Her strategy hinged on the innate human tendency to trust what is seen, especially when it aligns with expectations or desires. By constructing a veneer of legitimacy and success, Holmes manipulated trust to an alarming degree, turning Theranos into a mirage of innovation. This graphic comparison between Holmes's corporate deceit and Bundy's predatory tactics highlights a disturbing truth about manipulation. In the hands of the skilled and unscrupulous, it can be wielded to devastating effect, whether in a laboratory or a more sinister context. In this exploration of Elizabeth Holmes' manipulative saga, we've journeyed through unsettling parallels with history's darkest figures. It's a stark reminder, even in the realm of innovation, the potential for deep deceit lurks. If this narrative resonated with you, do support us. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe. Thank you for staying with us to the end. See you in the next video on Plaid Chronicles.